2 years ago, I met a woman who bought 4.5 plots of land in Shangotedo, Lagos State for 720,000 naira in 2004. And 17 years later, when we met in 2021, this same land, she was selling them for 115 million naira. Now, if you do the math, you will find out that she sold this land at 15,870% higher than what she bought it for. This is a perfect example of what we call land banking. And in this video, we are going to be discussing land banking and how to benefit from this real estate investment strategy. But first, let us even look at the definition. What exactly is land banking? So to simplify it, land banking is a real estate investment strategy, and it involves acquiring and holding undeveloped or unutilized land with the intention of selling it or developing it in future when its value has increased. So in a nutshell, land banking is you buy the land, you wait for a number of years until the value of the land has appreciated, and then you can then sell it or you can develop it. So it's a long-term investment. The primary goal of land banking is to generate profits through capital appreciation. And when I say profit, I'm talking about massive profits. Now, the intention of investors when they buy land for the purpose of land banking is that they expect that something would happen within that area and there will be a significant growth in the value of the land over time. Such growth can be driven by population. So when more people move to an area, the value of the real estate in that area, appreciates, or urbanization or infrastructure development. Now, we are going to look at 5 different factors to consider when using land banking as a real estate investment strategy. Now, the first factor we are going to consider is what type of properties should you look out for? What type of properties should you buy? Now, there are different ways to, use the land banking strategy. You can either decide to invest in lands in rural areas, that's areas that are not developed, or you can decide to invest in land that are close to urban centers. Now, for rural areas, we are talking about, Ekpe, when Ekpe was, really, rural, right? We are talking about when Ibejileki was not developed at all, right? Now, for lands that are near urban centers, we're talking about, Shangotedo, Aja, Abijo, and these are places in Lagos State. Or if you go to Abuja, we are talking about, going to buy lands in places like Gwagwalada when, that area was not populated. Now, if you are looking to buy lands in those areas, you know that lands in rural areas are really cheaper, right, than lands in urban centers or lands close to urban centers. So your strategy might be different. Now, if you're going to be buying land in rural areas, you probably want to be buying land in bulk, in acres, right? If you're going to be buying land in urban centers, you might not be buying as much land as you're buying in these rural areas. But first, what you need to consider is what is likely going to come to this place. For a place like Ekpe, you already know that Lagos is a really populated city, and the city would have to expand, right? The city will have to expand, and if it expands, where is it going to expand to? I mean, your mind should just let you know that at some point, migration is going to touch this place, and so I should position myself before migration affects this place. You could also look at, upcoming development, like when people start talking about the Laro City and Dangote refinery and all that years ago. I mean, any discerning investor would have known that at some point, these developments are going to affect the growth of real estate in that area. So, one thing you should look out for is, where should I buy? And your budget or the amount you have, the amount that is disposed to you, should inform whether you should buy in rural areas or in urban centers. The next thing you should consider is, what should you do before you buy the property? So you found the property now. The next thing is you want to buy, but you don't want to get scammed. You don't want to make a mistake. The next thing you should perform is your due diligence. Because now, lands that are in rural areas are mostly lands that do not have titles yet. So you have to buy and then you have to go process title. So one thing you need to do is perform proper due diligence. You need to find out the person selling to you or the family selling to you, are they the right family to sell this property? this property that you're about to buy, what is the plan for the of the government for that property? Has the government, you know, taken possession of that property? Is the property acquired by the government? Is the property committed by the government? What is the plan, the zoning plan for that area? All these things are what you need to consider, so that you don't go thinking that you're buying a property for land banking and then you end up buying a property that you won't be able to use. The third thing we need to talk about, the third factor, is what happens after you buy the property. The first thing you want to do is ensure you take possession. And taking possession is simple. Ensure you construct a fence around your property. Now, the reason is simple. If you're going to be buying property for land banking, you are going to be living it for years. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? And within that period, you want to ensure that your land is not resold or that somebody comes to take possession of your land. So the first thing you want to do is take possession. The second thing you want to do is you want to process title on that land, right? So most lands, especially in the rural areas, come without title. So you want to go and register a survey plan. You know, you want to also go and process title. If it's a CFO you're getting, get a CFO on that, you know, portion of land. If you're buying close to the urban center, you're probably buying property that already has title, right? So what you want to do is you want to go and register your title. So let's say the property has a CFO and then you buy, you get a deed of assignment. You want to take that deed of assignment and go and get your governor's consent. You basically want to register the title in your name. This is what you should do after you buy the property. Now the next factor, which is the fourth factor we have to consider, is what makes land banking lucrative. And it's just one word: time. Time. The longer you are willing to wait for the property to appreciate, the more likely, you know, your property is going to appreciate and the more profit you are going to make. Now let me give an example. If you buy a property, right, let's use the example I gave at the beginning. So she bought this property, 4.5 plots, in 2004 for 720,000 naira, and then she waited 17 years. 17 years she was selling at 115 million naira. Now imagine what would happen if she waits another 10 years, right? Imagine what would happen if she waits another 10 years. She probably will be selling this same land for maybe 300 and something million naira, maybe 300 million naira or more. Now imagine if she had sold just 5 years after she bought the land. She probably would have sold that land for max 2 million naira, 3 million naira, 5 million naira. So time. What makes land banking lucrative is time. So find the right area, perform your due diligence, ensure you take possession of your land and you perfect your title, because your title is what actually gives value to the land, and then you wait. You have to be willing to wait. It's not, you know, a strategy that pays you off overnight. Now the final thing you need to consider is, how do I maximize my profits using the land banking strategy? The first thing I would say is buy multiple plots. So if you're going to be using the land banking strategy, you're not buying land for your personal use. You are buying land for the purpose of investment. So you want to buy multiple plots. Max or minimum rather, you know, 2 plots, 3 plots, 6 plots, 12 plots, you know, buy multiple plots, and the location you are buying would determine how many plots you're buying. So if you're buying in a rural area or an area that is largely undeveloped, right, you want to buy multiple plots. Why? Because number one, you do not know what needs you will have in the future. Let's say you buy 1 plot now, and in 3 years you quickly want to sell some of it. Now, if you buy 1 plot and in 3 years you want to sell, you sell 1 plot and that's the end. If you're buying again, you're buying at a higher price. But say you buy 3 plots. I have a friend who bought, you know, about 3 plots of land in Ekpe, and in 2 years he had need for money. He sold 1 plot. He still had 2 plots left, right? These 2 plots, he can hold them for a much longer time. So you want to buy multiple plots. Secondly, you want to use different strategies when it's time for you to use the property. So let's say you buy 12 plots of land in a place like Ekpe right now, and in 10 years you sell 2 plots. You probably are making back the entire money that you used to buy all the 12 plots. Now, after some years rather, you decide that you want to sell some more plots. Now, you're making money on these properties. But something else you can do is probably, when the area is really developed, instead of selling your plots, you can sign a joint venture with a real estate developer who will come in and build on that land and give you some of the units for giving him the land, you know, to build on. And what happens is that you've converted your land to buildings that will now start paying you rental income forever. So land banking is a fantastic strategy for investing in real estate if you are patient, if you have the time to wait, and if you buy the correct property.